I can't see you, Dallas. I've got a picture of you, so I don't know if you're shaking your head at me or not.
Give me 1 second. We're streaming to YouTube, and then we'll be ready to go.
See you, Dallas. I've got it.
You are ready to go, Mr. Mayor.
All right. We will go ahead and call this regular City Commission meeting of June 22nd to order. I'm going to begin with an approval of the agenda. I have no changes to the agenda as it was published. Do any of the commissioners have any questions or comments on the agenda? Are you ready to make a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth to approve the agenda as it was published. I have a second from Commissioner McKinley. Are there any questions or comments on the agenda from the dais? Okay, hearing none. Dallas, go ahead and put our telephone number up. Once again, I'll remind everybody that we have a little bit of a delay between our YouTube watchers at home and our dais. So for about 30 seconds or so, we're gonna let motions, anything that the public needs to get in on, we're gonna give them a little bit of time to make sure that they get in. I'm running my own clock tonight, so bear with me as it takes me a little bit to get back and forth. If you're watching at home tonight, guys, we've just called this meeting to order. The motion on the floor is the approval of the agenda. If there's anything that was published on the agenda that you object to, anything that you think was supposed to be on the agenda that didn't make it onto the agenda, there's a phone number on your screen right now. All you need to do is call that phone number. We will get you into the meeting. Once you're in the meeting, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little hand symbol. Click that hand symbol and we'll know that you want to make a comment or you have a question about the agenda. We'll get you in the queue and we'll make sure you have an opportunity to get your question answered if possible, or you have the opportunity to make the statement that you would like to make. Again, there's about a 30-second delay, so we'll just give it a few more seconds to make sure that we don't have anybody in the waiting room. And by my clock, that's been about a minute now. So Dallas, if you'd bring me back to the commission, do we have any hands raised in the waiting room, Dallas?
No, sir.
All right. Then we will take a vote on the motion on the floor, which is to approve the agenda as it was published. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinley?
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Martin? Commissioner Norfleet?
Aye.
Aye from Commissioner Martin and an aye from Commissioner Norfleet. That motion passes unanimously. And that will take us to the invocation, which tonight will be given by Pastor McKinley from Destiny Community Church. Whatever is most comfortable for you at home. If you'd like to bow your head for this prayer, if you'd like to stand, either is acceptable. After the invocation, I would ask everyone to please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. And with that, Pastor McKinley.
Let us pray. Oh, Father, we come before you tonight, realizing that our nation is in a dire time, Lord. And I just pray, Lord, that you would just bring a sense of unity back to our nation, Lord. God, I pray that when we don't see eye to eye, Lord, that we would remember the words of Christ in Mark 3:25, when he said that a house divided against itself cannot stand. So, Lord, we pray, Lord, that you would let understanding flow, let conversations happen. And God, I pray, Lord, for the peace in our nation. God, I pray for this meeting tonight, Lord, that you would guide each and every commissioner. And Lord, help us as we make decisions to move Newberry forward, Lord. And we pray all of this in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Dallas, if you would get up, perfect time and got our flag there. And please all rise for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag of the United States of America, and
to the republic
which it stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
You know, Dallas, it occurs to me if we do many more of these virtual meetings, we should get somebody with a really nice voice, a recording that says the pledge. Yeah, that'd be nice. Okay. Moving right along, we have a couple of presentations. The first one is a proclamation designating July as Parks and Recreation Month. Now, as you guys know, normally we would have our Parks and Rec Director, Travis, here. We'd be able to recognize the department virtually. We'd have to recognize him from afar. But thank you for joining us here tonight. And I will go ahead and read this proclamation into the record. People who cannot find time for recreation are obliged sooner or later to find time for illness. John Wanamaker. Whereas public parks and recreation systems are dedicated to enhancing the quality of life for millions of residents and communities around this country, including the city of Newberry, through recreation, programming, leisure activities, and conservation efforts. And whereas parks and recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas the city of Newberry's parks, natural areas, playgrounds, sports fields, recreation programs, and community centers make Newberry an attractive and desirable place to live, work, play, and visit, while contributing to its ongoing economic vitality. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas it is important to recognize the vital contributions made by employees and volunteers in parks and recreation facilities who keep public parks clean and safe for visitors, organize youth activities, and provide educational programming on health, nutrition, first aid, and gardening, advocate for more open space and better trails, and fundraise for local improvements. And whereas July is the kickoff of the summer season and has therefore been designated as Parks and Recreation Month by the National Recreation and Park Association. Now, therefore, be it resolved by Jordan Marlowe, Mayor of the City of Newberry, that July is recognized as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of Newberry. This is attested to by the Clerk of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Miss Judy S. Rice. Travis, thank you so much for everything you do for our youth, for our folks trying to get in shape, for our community. And we certainly do appreciate you and want to take this time to recognize you and what you do for our city. You have anything you'd like to say, Travis?
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. I have a quick presentation that I will go through.
All right.
Kind of outlines the past year and kind of what we're looking forward to and what Parks and Recreation has been up to.
Well, take us right on into the second item under presentations and give us that presentation.
Dallas, are you going to put that presentation up there?
No, that would be up to you.
My fault.
Look at that share screen,
Well-oiled machine here.
Travis, and we'll be good.
Well, this is embarrassing. Hold on, let me find it. This is my first.
All right, why don't we give Travis a couple minutes here and let's go to public announcements. And when we come back, he'll be ready. So Dallas, if you would, go ahead and put our telephone number up. Ladies and gentlemen, at the beginning of every meeting, we like to have an opportunity for the public to make a comment. We want to make sure the public is front and center, so we always have this very early on in the meeting. These are 2-minute announcements. They're the more non-controversial type of announcements intended to let us know what's going on in town, things of that nature. So at this point in time, if you're looking or you're watching at home, we have come to our public announcements. Again, we have that slight delay between our meeting and YouTube. So at this point, we've had about 30 seconds. If you'd like to call in and let us know, I'm hoping that Marlon Day is in the meeting because we're missing those updates from the library. But if you got anything, just call that number on your screen. We'll get you into the meeting and click that little hand symbol at the bottom. That'll let us know that you have a comment that you'd like to make.
Mr. Mayor, you have a comment from Manager New.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. New.
And Mr. Mayor, I was experimenting with the raise hand feature because I would be using it on the next agenda item. So I'll come back to that.
I'm glad that we know that it works for you.
There are no other public comments, Mr. Mayor.
No other public comments. Well, Dallas, if you would take us back to the commission, then we are now past public comment time, but we are going to go backwards in the meeting. and give our Parks and Rec director an opportunity to update us, who on my screen I have now completely, no, there he is. I got you. Are you ready, Travis?
Oh my goodness.
You muted yourself, Travis.
I'm trying. I am trying. I got a million screens here, and
We can always put this on the next agenda, on the next.
no, it's not, I got it. I got it.
And ladies and gentlemen at home, as you know, we were attempting to have this meeting live today. We couldn't pull it together to do live, so we made the decision to keep the virtual format, and that has given us a few hurdles and obstacles to overcome itself. So if you're watching at home, that's what you're seeing. We're just doing the best we can, making sure we get everything back up and running. And Travis, it looks like you are shared your screen. Are you ready to go?
I am ready.
Take it
All
away.
right, let's get started. All right, so our organizational chart remains unchanged as it did last year. Director of Recreation, Staff Assistant. We have a program supervisor who is over the coordinators at MLK and then at Easton as well. And then we have program assistants who are our part-time staff who help with events that happen during the week, whether it's practices, game days, etc. We have a custodian who is a full-time Easton building custodian, as we have Greenfield, archery, a lot of stuff going on. Our sports program, sports programming, we're still doing all of our normal youth sports, baseball, softball. A change that we've had there is that we have started fall baseball and softball. We hadn't done that in the past, so that brought a few hurdles. We started that in 2019. Field space being one of them. So we have worked with the middle school, and we were able to move our soccer programs over there in the fall, or some of them, to make space for our baseball, softball programs in the fall. So we're growing.
Can I, Mr. New, can you mute yourself, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, Travis, go right ahead.
So we're growing in that aspect. Again, we offer the same fall sports: tackle football, flag football, which flag is a very big sport for us. Seems like it's getting a lot of traction, especially as our tackle football numbers seem to kind of every year a few less kids, and then we get a few more kids in flag. Season, spring, summer, fall, and winter, and our leagues remain unchanged. Babe Ruth for baseball and softball. We play our 14U football at Boys and Girls Club. We are still participants in the Act 4 League. I'm still currently the president of Act 4. So Newberry still has a very active role in that league, and that does soccer, volleyball, anything basically besides tackle football. And then we play the Tri-County Football League. Seasonal breakdown. This includes fall 2019 and spring 2020 numbers. Fall is our busiest time because we play all of our spring sports plus tackle football and cheer. Winter consists of basketball. These numbers are hard to put together until we look at, here's another just breakdown of participant per sport. You'll see volleyball, soccer, softball is a huge number for us. A couple of years ago, that was a 0 spot. So it's grown. We had 158 between spring and fall. So it's a big number. And again, volleyball, soccer, I mean, we're growing big time in those. Here's the one that really like shows how we're doing as far as growth. And you'll see a couple that are declining, but which is football and soccer. And we're talking maybe 20 or so participants, maybe less at times. But we've got some that are really taking off. Volleyball from 2017, 2019 is a large growth, over 60 kids. And then softball, you can see, I mean, we had 26 kids register in 2018 to 157. Cheer, we got that going again. We didn't have a cheer team. We got that going last year. I think we had 20 participants. So we've got a lot of our sports trending up, which is a good thing, and growing at a rate that's going to allow us to keep up. So over the course of the last few months with COVID-19, it kind of put a halt to all of our sports, which was difficult for us considering that's mainly what we do. We've come up with ways, I hope, that helped our community. One thing was Newberry Eats, where we delivered food, called a restaurant. Someone called a restaurant, we would go pick it up and deliver. I think that one worked really well. We also did the Blessed Hope food distribution. We worked with the county. So every Tuesday we went and picked up food from the county, and then we delivered it to Blessed Hope, and then they gave it out. Some cool numbers I got in May. Every day they did it. 99 families fed, 98 families fed, 75, 97, 102, 130, 74. So a lot of families in Newberry were fed from that program. We also offer Newberry Prints. We did the farm share at Easton, which was successful. And we assisted with the COVID-19 drive-through testing at the fire station. So our reopening plan, we just started back with baseball, softball. And this is just a kind of a snippet of what we sent out to our participants and families, basically saying, hey, look, we're going to open back up. Here are some guidelines we'd like you to abide by to make sure we stay safe. I'd say that half of the areas around us open back up. I'd say the other half either canceled their seasons and or are just going to wait to the fall. So we're kind of right in the middle of where everyone was. And so far, everything has been going really well. Senior programming seems like it's been a while since we've done it, but we still offer bingo on Mondays. And we do a lot with the MLK Center. So as far as elder programs are concerned, and here's just a few of the things that we do.
Travis, you have a hand raised.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't do that.
Who's the hand from?
Manager new.
Oh,
Manager still.
Just at the end of Travis's presentation. Are you through, Travis?
I'm not.
Okay, well, at the end, that's when I'd like to just offer a comment.
Okay.
Dallas, after this meeting, can you give the manager a lesson on when to click that raise hand button? Thank you. All right, continue on, Mr. Parker.
Some special events that we do. Westfest, this was our ticket for Westfest this year. Obviously with COVID-19, it kind of set us back a little bit. But it's one of the events that we put on that we're excited about, something that is really cool for our residents and something that we hope we can bring in the fall. We also do the MLK celebration. We do an Easter hunt, egg hunt, and a few of the other things. I won't go into all of them. Community center, same thing. There was a float. Tasha did that float this year. It was really cool for the Christmas parade. But we also do art classes, book club, cooking class, things like that at MLK. Easton Newberry Sports Complex, we have a lot of changes coming up. This is the master plan. I haven't given this out yet. I want to present it to you guys once it's fully completed. But it's just a quick little snippet of it. A few of the highlights. This is all through Wild Spaces Public Places, but kind of the relocation of the RC park, relocation of the maintenance facilities, some sidewalks, walking paths, construction of the parking areas, and then multi-purpose fields with lighting and irrigation. So those are some of the things that we're looking forward to at the Easton complex. And then the Jimmy Durden Park, we're beginning construction right now. I've got purchase orders out for the volleyball courts. Those are going to get under construction in the next week or so, followed by the reconstruction of the baseball fields. The field, we're going to renovate that. And if you've driven by there, you've seen some of the work that Jamie's done as far as building new retention, etc. So we're excited about that. And that's it.
All right, Mr. New, you were first up. Go right ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I wanted to echo your sentiments about, what our recreation department has been doing. It's one of the areas that we've realized the most growth in recent years. I'd say that that currently Newberry offers the most well-rounded most well-managed recreation program in the region, including the city of Gainesville, where they have a lot more staff. And I think a lot of the credit goes to, or the majority of the credit goes to Travis and his team. They're very committed. I get tons of compliments from other recreation areas and from the general public. And I think the commission can recall a time where we didn't get a lot of positive feedback about our recreation department, and really seen a lot of growth there in the last 5 years. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge Travis and his team for the effort they put in to make the city of Newberry have such a strong program.
Thank you, Mr. New. Does the commission have any questions or comments for Mr. Parker? Seeing none, I'm just gonna, once again, Travis, I don't know that any other department had to be as flexible and mold yourself as much as you guys did in this shutdown. And you set the bar. I mean, I saw more TV 20 stories about things coming out of your department of ways that you were still serving the residents of this community. And I saw other cities emulate what you did. And that is always one of the markers of success, when everybody that's watching around says, hey, that's a good idea. Let's try to do that too. So well-timed proclamation for you tonight, for your department tonight. Please pass along mine and the commission's gratitude to everybody over there at Easton. So thank you, sir. And that will move us up. Commissioner Martin.
Travis, I really appreciate you being in that role. I never get any calls about your department, and ever since you took over, the trajectory of that department has really, really improved. I was very happy to hear that you were going into that role, and really, really appreciate all the sacrifice that you do. I know you wear a lot of hats over there and help out in a lot of other areas, and I don't know that very many people can do that. So I just, real heartfelt appreciation for you and what you do every day. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. And as a bonus, you don't have to wait with us the rest of this meeting. All right. That'll move us to the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda as it was published. I have a motion from Commissioner Martin.
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman. Commissioner, as an aye. Commissioner McKinley.
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Norfleet.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And that takes us to our first quasi judicial public hearing. And ladies and gentlemen, when the commission sits in quasi judicial, they move from a legislative body to a judicial body. So there is a specific procedure that they are bound to follow. They have rules that they have to follow, and they are in essence sitting as judges, so they can only listen to the expert testimony that is presented to them inside this procedure. We as a body have established that I will explain this procedure, and as long as nobody new enters the meeting, nobody else joins us, then I won't explain this for the rest of the quasi judicials that are in front of us. I will need to do some things like ask for ex parte, swear people in, but we won't have to go through all of it every single time again, unless somebody new joins us. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and explain the procedure. But before I do that, I'd like to ask Scott or Rich, if you would please read the ordinance into the record on first reading 2020-20/LDR 20-01.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will do so. This is ordinance number 2020-20, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, pursuant to Article 4 of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations as amended, relating to the amendments to the adopted development order number 19-01, pursuant to an application by the property owner to amend the Canterbury Planned Development PD to allow existing electric service lines to remain above ground on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. Mr. Mayor, when the appropriate time in the meeting is reached after the presentations, The appropriate motion would be to pass ordinance number 2020-20 upon its reading by title only, or approve it with modifications. Of course, you can continue it or you can deny it with a basis of the evidence that has been brought before you.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
Yes,
At
sir.
this point, I'm going to go ahead and explain the rules concerning testimony, and that is primarily all public testimony will be taken under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence. The giving of opinion testimony will be limited to experts, and closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of record. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and ask our clerk to swear in anyone who is going to speak to this item. Even if you're in the meeting and you think you might want to speak to the Alachua County Agricultural Equestrian Event Center, please go ahead and click that little hand signal at the bottom of your screen to let us know that you'd like to be sworn in. If we have you visually, you can just raise your hand. We're going to go around. Our clerk is going to say the oath, and all I need you to say is your name and whether you swear or affirm to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Madam Clerk, are you ready? All right. You need to unmute yourself, Miss Judy. And is it going to be Mr. Thomas or Miss Wendy? Who's leading the conversation? Mr. Thomas, let's start with you. We'll use you as your guinea pig. Anybody else who has their hand raised, we'll get to you right as soon as we swear in Mr. Thomas. Go ahead, Miss Judy.
Mr. Thomas, do you swear or affirm the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You have been duly sworn.
Okay. Dallas, do we have anybody else with their hand raised?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. There is an RT in the audience.
Okay. Mr. Hart.
Ryan Thompson, I do.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else with their hand raised?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right. We'll give just another second in case you are calling in to raise your hand. And while we're doing that, I'd like to go around to the commission and ask for any ex parte communication. If you had any conversation with anybody outside of this meeting that might influence your thinking, influence your decision, let's begin with Commissioner Coleman.
None.
Commissioner McKinley,
No.
Commissioner Farnsworth,
I have none.
Commissioner Martin,
No, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Norfleet.
None.
And again, I'm a non-voting mayor, but I also have not had any ex parte communication. Okay, and we have anybody else with their hand raised needing to be sworn? Dallas? No? Okay. All right, then at this time, I'm going to go through the presentation order. We'll begin this quasi-judicial with an overview from our staff. Then the applicant will have a presentation with no time limit. Staff will give us their report also with no time limit. They will also give us staff's recommendation at this time. I have not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim third-party intervener status. So that's going to take us right to public comment. If you're in the public and you'd like to speak to this issue, at that time, you will have 3 minutes to make a comment to the item. Then we will hear from the applicant again, given an opportunity to cross-examine either the staff or anything that was said during public comment. Then the staff will have the opportunity to cross-examine. And finally, we'll go to the members of the decision-making body who through the chair can ask questions of the staff, the applicant, or anyone who has participated in the process. Then we'll hear final arguments from the applicant and the staff. And then we will hear from the city attorney who will advise the decision-making body as to the applicable law and the actual findings that must be made to approve or deny the application. And then the commission will deliberate. After deliberations, a vote will be taken to approve with conditions, continue, or deny the application. That's the procedure that we're going to follow tonight. And we'll begin with Mr. Thomas's staff overview.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Give me one moment while I get the correct presentation up. Nope, got the wrong one. It's hard to see in that little screen.
We understand.
There we go. Okay,
That looks right.
that looks right. Yes, sir. Okay, this is ordinance 2020-20, LDR 20-01. It is a application by CHW as agent for the Alachua County to amend Development Order 1901 to allow existing electrical services to remain above ground. And sort of the background history on this was that when the original development order for the Canterbury Plan Development was originally drafted and approved by the commission, it was anticipated that the property would be converted to a mixed-use commercial and residential development, and that the equestrian center would actually go away. And so it was never really anticipated that existing facilities might need to remain. And so all utilities, as part of the development order 13-01, which was further amended to 19-01, would go underground. And it was realized that that needed to be amended before they could move forward. As you were all well aware, it's on approximately 36.73 acres on State Road 26. And just locationally, again, it's the Canterbury Equestrian Center, now being renamed to the Alachua County Agricultural and Equestrian Event Center. And with that, I actually will turn over to Mr. Ryan Thompson, who has the application presentation for the applicant.
All right. That's our overview. So Mr. Thompson, you are up.
Mr. Mayor, give him 1 second. I'm promoting him so he can present.
Aha.
There he is.
Good evening. How's everybody doing?
Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you as well. I have a brief presentation that I'll share with you. And can everybody see that okay?
Yep.
Wonderful. I don't have a whole lot of information to add to Mr. Thomas's presentation. I will go over just a few highlights, but my name is Ryan Thompson. I'm a planner with CHW and agent for the applicant. Tonight we're discussing a rezoning of the Alachua County Agriculture and Equestrian Event Center plan development. As Mr. Thomas mentioned, we worked with the city and Alachua County to prepare this PD and was approved last year. When we were preparing the site development plans for improvements to the property for the event center, we determined that language regarding overhead utilities was unclear. So that's what brings us to you this evening. Our request is to amend the PD with the intent to allow some existing overhead utilities to remain above ground. In March, we submitted the rezoning application per the city's requirements, and staff recommended approval. On June 1st, we were before the Planning and Zoning Board, who also recommended approval. And with your approval this evening, we'll be before you in July for second reading.
Is that it, Mr. Thompson?
That can be.
No. Keep going. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Like you were laughing.
We're all familiar with the site, so I won't go into too much detail here. It was the former Canterbury Equestrian Showplace on Newberry Road and 232nd Terrace. There are 4 total amendments, 3 of which are in the development order 19-01, all to the same tune, that new service lines will be installed underground while existing service lines may remain above ground. There's one additional proposed amendment that's in the preliminary utility service plan. We just added a general note to that to ensure that that document was clear as well. These are the general notes. Number 3 is the new note that we're proposing. And again, it's in tune with the other proposed amendments. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I do conclude. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
We'll get to those in just 1 minute, Mr. Thompson. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
We take it back to our own Mr. Thomas now for staff report and recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll get back to the presentation again. As Mr. Thompson mentioned, as we are all familiar with the Alachua County Equestrian Agricultural Event Center. And this just shows the existing Development Order 1901 and the additions and strike-throughs from the existing language. There are 3 primary areas, plus, as Mr. Thompson mentioned, the preliminary utility plan. And just to give you a general idea of what we're talking about, this is an area that's used for visiting event participant, either RV hookups or trailer hookups to electrical. These kinds of above ground facilities is generally what we're talking about that would be allowed to remain above ground. There's a few places like this around the varying locations in the property, and rather than incur significant expense to underground those, the request is to allow those to remain above ground. And so with that, staff's recommended action is to approve ordinance 2020-20 on first reading. And I believe the city manager had some comments he also wanted to add at this time.
We'll get to those comments as soon as we get through the questions and right before we start the deliberations. Okay, so Mr. Thompson, did you hear anything? I'm sorry, we have public comment first. So Dallas, could you put our phone number up? Ladies and gentlemen, we are in our first quasi-judicial of the night. This is ordinance 2020-20 is in reference to the Alachua County Agriculture and Equestrian Event Center. By this point, if you're watching on YouTube, hopefully you've got a screen up that has a phone number. If you'd like to call in and make a comment about this ordinance, just dial that phone number. Once you get into the meeting, at the bottom, you will see a little hand symbol. All you need to do is click that hand symbol to let us know that you have a comment that you would like to make. You have 3 minutes to make that comment, and we'll get you queued up. Again, we've got that slight delay, so we're just waiting to make sure that anyone from the public who wants to speak has the opportunity to do so. And Dallas, do we have anybody with their hand raised right now? Okay, that's been about 45 seconds there. So I'm gonna ease us back to the dais and give Mr. Thompson now, you have the ability to cross-examine if you heard anything in Mr. Thomas's report that you'd like to rebut. Now would be the time to do so.
No, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Thompson, did you hear anything that you want to rebut?
No, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Commissioner, do you have any questions for either Mr. Thompson or Mr. Thomas? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Martin, are you pondering a question? No? Okay. Seeing none, we're going to go to final arguments. Mr. Thompson, you don't have to make a final argument, but if you feel the need to, you can make one now.
No, thank you.
Mr. Thomas?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Attorney, would you please advise the decision-making body as to the applicable law?
Mr. Mayor, it's competent and substantial evidence. The commissioners should pay close attention to the expert testimony by Mr. Thomas and Mr. Thompson. They're the ones that can give you opinion testimony as to the applicability of this project, and you should rely based upon their testimony as to how you vote.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. New, as we move into deliberations and we hear from the commissioners, I think you have a comment that you'd like to make that may have bearing on those deliberations.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and I guess I would say I offer this not in the way of testimony, but just advising. The county approached us with this request, which I didn't see as a clarification. I just saw it as a request and an opportunity to save on the project cost. They estimate that the savings for leaving this overhead electric utilities will be in the neighborhood of $100,000. We've worked with the county throughout the project to save on project costs. We think it's in the best interest of all taxpayers that we save money where we can. We continue to work with the county on what Newberry's fair share of water and sewer costs will be. And while we support the request tonight on first reading, I think that how our negotiations go with the county regarding Newberry's fair share of water sewer cost will play into whether staff would support this at second reading. We think it's best to approve it tonight so we keep everything in play, but we think that this is a partnership and we want to make sure that the county is exercising those opportunities to save Newberry's residents when there's that opportunity to do so. So I just want the commission to be aware of staff's position and not be surprised if we come back and recommend denial on second reading.
And to add on to what Mr. New says, I have no problem with either presentation that was made. I think the only thing that I may take issue with was that word clarification. I think that the contract that we have is pretty clear and it states what it states. The county commission is asking for a favor here. And I'm perfectly in agreement with the manager that this is a favor we should work to grant, as we have worked to grant everything that the county has asked us when it comes to this partnership to date. I think we have bent over backwards to be a really good partner and to try to save the taxpayers in Alachua County money every opportunity that we've been able to do so. And I hope that in all endeavors, both on Canterbury and on other things, that we continue to effort to work well together and to do each other favors whenever we can. And with that, does any other commissioner have a deliberation that they'd like to make? Mr. Martin.
Yeah, I don't have really any heartburn about the request. Can you refresh the primary source for the funds that are getting put into the project by the county are they coming from bed taxes or is it general fund expenses? Do you know, or a combination?
I think the bulk of it came from our share of the wild spaces public places, but Dallas may be best. Can you answer that question on the fly, Dallas?
Mr. Mayor, it's my understanding that the majority of the expenses at the Canterbury property from the county side are funded through their tourist development dollars or the bed tax, but there are general fund dollars from the county going in to supplement those expenses.
Okay.
Was your question
I'd only add in the fact that all the Newberry citizens are also Alachua County citizens too. So I just want us to kind of be mindful of that moving forward as well. But otherwise, I don't really have any significant problem with it as long as the any maintenance that needs to be done gets done. It's not unsightly or anything like that. I haven't been over there in a while, so I don't know the current condition. But if we can just kind of together keep an eye on that. Thanks.
Commissioner Martin, was your question about Newberry's funding source or the county's funding source? I may have misunderstood. I thought you were asking about where was Newberry's share coming from.
No, it was the county's.
Okay.
Because I was just kind of folding it into, if it's general tax fund, not only are the citizens of Newberry putting in the Newberry portion of the money, but they're also putting in a portion of the county at large expenses as well. And because all of our citizens are county citizens, that just kind of changes the factoring a little bit for me. That's all.
Sure. Other deliberations. So basically all this tonight is saying that some of the utilities can go underground, some of them can stay above ground. Staff's recommendation is to approve this on first reading, allow our staff to continue negotiations with county staff on some of these other agreements that we have, and then hopefully, upon good negotiations, we'll have a recommendation from staff to approve this on second reading as well. Is that a good 30-second summary, Mr. Thomas? Okay. Well, if there are no more deliberations, I'll entertain a vote to approve with conditions, continue, or deny the application.
Move
So
to
moved.
approve.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin.
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner McKinley. So I have a motion properly seconded to approve ordinance 2020-20 on first reading. Are there any questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Okay, Dallas, if you would put our telephone number up. Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to the end of our first quasi-judicial public hearing. This one's on ordinance 2020-20. We do have a motion properly seconded for approval. It's on the floor, and we are opening the floor for public comment. Ordinance 2020-20 is about the Alachua County Agricultural Equestrian Events Center. It's a planned development. You should have on your screen at this point telephone number. If you have a comment or a question about the motion on the floor, all you need to do is call that phone number. Once we get you into the meeting, you'll see a little hand symbol at the bottom of your screen. Click that. That'll let us know that you have a question or a comment that you'd like to make about the motion on the floor, which is to approve ordinance 2020-20 for the Equestrian Center. Again, we have just a few seconds of a delay here between our live feed and YouTube. So we're making sure that anyone in the public has the opportunity to call in and have their voice heard. Dallas, that's about 45 seconds on my clock. Do we have anyone with their hand raised? Okay, so seeing no public comment on this, we're going to move to a roll call vote. And we'll begin with Commissioner Coleman.
Aye.
Commissioner McKinley.
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet. Commissioner Norfleet. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That's going to move us to our second quasi-judicial. Dallas, has anyone new entered the room since? Okay, perfect. We're going to move right then to ex parte and give Miss Judy a second to get ready to swear everyone in. On ordinance 2020-21, which is an application by M3 Development. I'm sorry, before we do ex parte, let's go to Rich and read this into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 2020-21, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, pursuant to Article 4 of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations as amended, relating to amendments to the adopted development order number 05-1, pursuant to an application by the property owner to amend the Lexington Station Mixed Use Development, MU, to amend the residential building setbacks on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, sir. Now I'd like to ask for ex parte on ordinance 2020-21. We'll start with Commissioner Coleman.
None.
Commissioner McKinley.
No, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Farnsworth.
None.
Commissioner Martin.
None.
Commissioner Norfleet.
None.
Okay. And now, if you are here to speak to this ordinance, this quasi-judicial, please click that little hand symbol at the bottom. Let us know that you would like to say something. And Miss Wendy, are you taking this one, or is it still Mr. Thomas? Mr. Thomas. So we're going to use you as the guinea pig, Mr. Thomas, again. So please raise your hand. Anyone else, if we can see you, just raise your hand. And when you say whether you swear or not, please repeat your name for the record for us. Miss Judy, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Go, take it away.
Please say your name for the record.
Brian Thomas.
Do you hereby swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You have been duly sworn.
Mr. McDaniel.
David McDaniel, I do.
Thank you, sir. Dallas, do we have anyone else with their hand raised?
No, sir.
Okay. So we've sworn in, we've done ex parte. I'm not going to go back through all of the procedures. we're going to just jump right to the staff overview, which is Mr. Thomas.
All right, Mr. Mayor, thank you. One moment, please. Make sure I get the right one this time. There we go. Okay, this is ordinance 2020-21, LDR 20-02, a application to amend the mixed-use development order 05-1. Basically, the gist of the request is to allow for a relatively minor change in the setbacks for front and side yards in the residential development and the mixed use. This is the property that encompasses the area around the Easton Newberry Sports Complex. Even though the area that's designated at this point or being contemplated for single-family residential development is really only the northern part of the development. Let me get my annotations back. This section up here, the amendment would cover potentially the entirety. There is some facility in the mixed use for not only single family, but also some multifamily in terms of duplexes, triplexes, and quadruplexes, and then also full-blown multifamily potential as well. And so this would pertain only to the single family, duplex, triplex, or 4-unit development potential. And it would, at that, I don't believe Mr. McDaniels has a presentation. So if it pleases the commission, I'll go ahead and go through a brief staff presentation, and then Mr. McDaniels, if he has anything to add.
That true, Mr. McDaniel? Are you foregoing?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't have a presentation. I'll just comment when Brian is finished.
Sounds good. Go ahead, Mr. Thomas.
Okay, thank you, sir. And so currently, and I know it looks like it says 15 feet with a strike through, the original is actually, the strike through meant it was 5 feet for a front setback with 10 feet on the both sides, either an interior lot or a street lot, and then a 10-foot in the rear, and then the accessory building setbacks. And so the requested amendment would go from a 5-foot front yard setback to a 20-foot yard setback in the front yard. And then on the interior side yard, it would go from 10 feet to 5 feet. It will not, the application would not change any allowable densities that are in the mixed use development, and it would not affect the setbacks for accessory buildings in any way. And so that's really the totality of the request, and it basically results from a desire to develop the single family area in the mixed use to a development pattern that's more conducive to market demand at this point. A front yard setback of 5 feet generally implies that you're going to develop something in the sort of Tioga style, where the houses are right up to the edge of the property line with no parking in the front, rear parking and that kind of thing. Moving it to a front yard setback of 20 feet not only allows for a more typical neighborhood design that we see in Newberry, but also too, it ensures that there's enough room to park in the driveway without encroaching over the public sidewalk, which is a problem in some neighborhoods that don't have an adequate front yard setback to allow for that. And with that, staff's recommendation is to approve ordinance 2020-21 on first reading.
Okay, thank you, sir. I have not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim a third-party intervener status, so that's going to move us to public comment. So Dallas, if you would put our telephone number up, please. And ladies and gentlemen, we are into quasi-judicial public hearing ordinance 2020-21, which is a mixed-use development, quasi-judicial, about changing the setbacks We have a little bit of a delay between our live feed and YouTube. So if you are watching at home on YouTube at this point, you should have a phone number on your screen. All you need to do if you want to call in and ask a question or make a comment about ordinance 2020-21, dial that phone number. We'll get you into the meeting. Once you're into the meeting, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little hand symbol. Just click that hand symbol. That'll let us know that you have that question or comment to make, and we'll get you queued up to make that. Again, you'll have an opportunity at the end of this quasi-judicial, once a motion is on the floor, for public comment as well. So this is not your only opportunity. And at this point, that's been about 40 seconds. Dallas, do we have anyone with their hand raised? Okay, if you would, go ahead and take us back to the commission. And we will move on, as long as there's still no public comment, we will move on to applicant cross-examination. Mr. McDaniel, did you hear anything in staff report or recommendation that you would like to question or refute?
I did not.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Thomas, do you want to refute yourself?
No, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
All right, thank you. Then we will move on to members of the decision-making body asking questions of either Mr. Thomas or Mr. McDaniel. Any questions about this? Mr. Farnsworth, Commissioner Farnsworth.
So, Mr. Thomas, if we approve the setback from 5 to 20 feet on the front yard, will that stop the parking on the streets?
Mr. Mayor, the parking on the street can be handled in one of two ways. This subdivision actually has sidewalks on both sides. It's in the development order that it'll be on both sides. And so to have a 20-foot setback, gives room not to have it on the streets. The width of the roads is going to be probably one of the deciding factors on whether or not there's room to have on-street parking. And that's something that when the developer comes back with the construction plans and the layout, that we can actually better adequately answer then. There's nothing right now that would prohibit it, but given the sensitivity that we've developed over some problems in other neighborhoods in Newberry on street parking, it's definitely something that's going to be worked out prior to a construction plan approval on the planning.
And if we leave it at 5 feet, will the parking, where will the parking be? Will they have to park in the back?
Mr. Mayor, if we left it at 5 feet, you'd have to make either accommodation for a lot more on-street parking, or you would have to develop something that had the rear alleyway type of setup where you access your garage and parking from the rear. So that would be the likely outcome is either one or a combination of both.
But in their site plan, they could put for additional parking on the street if they made their roadways wide enough.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, they could. But if when you only get 5 foot for the front setback and you move the front of the house that much forward in what they call a neo-traditional design, you're pretty much requiring then the developer to have rear entry garages. Otherwise, the likelihood is you're going to have a situation where people are parking in the front and the driveway in the front across the sidewalks, which then becomes a kind of a perpetual issue because you can't block public access on the sidewalks. The design has been out there. This property has been for sale for quite some time, and it hasn't been picked up in the past. And I think that might be a possible one of the reasons why is just there's much more limited demand in the marketplace, it would seem, for that type of development with the rear access. It is a more expensive design pattern, which then drives up the cost of the housing developed in that neighborhood.
Okay.
That conclude your questions, Commissioner Farnsworth?
It does.
Further questions from the dais? Commissioner Martin?
Yeah, I'm a little conflicted just from the standpoint of trying to discourage on-street parking, and I'm not sure which achieves that better here, keeping the houses up close and they are not able to park over the sidewalks anyway, or moving it backwards and hoping that they will park in the driveway. It seems so far we haven't really had a whole luck with getting people to park in the driveway, regardless of whether they got a 3-car garage and a driveway. So I'm interested to hear what other folks have to say about it.
Mr. Thomas, while everybody else is thinking of a question, do these setbacks recommendations, do they bring this development more in line with the recent changes to our setbacks that this dais has approved, or less?
Mr. Mayor, they would be bringing it back more in line with what has been approved over the last many years. More of a traditional look that Newberry has right now, where you've got the front yard access front driveway with the garage in the front, as opposed to having to provide your access from the rear. It would result in a more traditional, well, I keep saying traditional, but a more typical development subdivision than that we see in the other parts of Newberry. The on-street parking, like I mentioned, can be addressed during the negotiations over the construction plans and the homeowners association documents, and those kind of, there's a lot of opportunity in those areas where we can address how the on-street parking is going to be allowed or not allowed.
Okay. Other questions from the dais? I mean, I guess what it sounds like, Mr. Thomas, is the commission wants to know, is 20 feet enough? Because all we can do is create a situation where there is enough space for people to park in their driveway without going out over the sidewalk. Whether their behavioral patterns take advantage of that is a different question. But we have some developments where we allowed them to create a situation where they really can't park in their driveway without hanging over the sidewalk. Is 20 feet enough that they could get, a 4-door pickup truck in front of their house without the tail end, making the mom with the stroller go out into the street to get around it?
We do have some pretty big pickup trucks in Newberry, Mr. Mayor. There's no question of that. If you got somebody with a full-size 4-door and an extended bed, 20 might not be enough, but at 20 feet is the standard length of a parking spot that we require in our LDRs for commercial. And so in general, there might be a couple of exceptions out there, but 20 feet should be enough to provide enough room for your typical full-size truck or less to have room to park in the driveway and stay off the streets. And as you point out, people have boats, they have trailers and things, and if they park them out in the street, then it just becomes a code enforcement issue that can be followed up on there. But in general, 20 feet should be adequate for the vast majority of vehicles.
Okay. Any final questions before we move to final arguments? Commissioner Coleman?
With this, is it going to be a, what is it called? Where it's, where they have their own homeowners association and all that?
Homeowners. Eventually, when this is built out, Mr. McDaniel, do you intend to turn it over to an HOA?
Yes, we will. And it'll have covenants and restrictions associated with the homeowners. They'll be responsible to the HOA for various areas of compliance, fence colors, how they park their cars, all sorts of things like that. Yes.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking. It's a moot point then, because you got a HOA, they're not going to let everybody park in the out on the road like they do on most of these other neighborhoods. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments from the dais? Seeing none, we'll move to final arguments. Mr. McDaniel, did you hear anything that you'd like to address in the final argument?
Nope, everything was fine. I guess I would like to add that the two other developments that one that we've completed now in Newberry Corners and Oak Park, each of them had 20-foot front yard setbacks and a similar side yard setback. This development will be somewhat similar to those. In general, they'll be similar. So we were just trying to get it to conform to what we had done in the past.
We appreciate the consistency. It helps us on our end. So thank you for that. Mr. Thomas, did you hear anything you'd like to make a final argument about?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Attorney, would you please advise the decision-making body as to the applicable law?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are once again governed by the substantial and competent evidence standard based on the commission should take into consideration the testimony from both Mr. Thomas and Mr. McDaniel and the evidence that they have provided to the commission.
Okay, thank you, sir. That takes us to deliberations. Does any commissioner have any deliberations, or is anyone ready to make a motion?
Is it 2021?
You're on 2020-21. Yes, sir.
I move to approve 20 -21.
Okay, I have a motion to approve ordinance 2020-21 on first reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner McKinley. Does the dais have any further questions on ordinance 2020-21, which is amending the setbacks, doesn't change the density, doesn't change anything else really about this development, just changes the setbacks? Seeing no questions about the motion on the floor from the dais, Dallas, will you please take us to our public? Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of quasi-judicial public hearing, which is a first reading on ordinance 2020-21. We have a motion properly seconded on the floor to approve that ordinance. At this time, you should be seeing a telephone number on your screen. If you'd like to call in and have a question or make a comment on ordinance 2020-21, you can do so now. All you need to do is call that number. That will get you into the meeting. Once you're in the meeting, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little hand symbol. All you need to do is click that hand symbol. That'll let us know that you have a comment or you'd like to ask some questions about this ordinance. Again, we are on 2020-21, which is an application by M3 Development to amend the mixed-use development located directly north and west of the Easton Newberry Sports Complex in Newberry, Florida. Okay, Dallas, that's been about 40 seconds. So take us back to the commission. Do we have anybody with their hand raised from the public?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, seeing that we have no public comment, I'll now take a roll call vote on ordinance 2020-21, starting with Commissioner Coleman.
Aye.
Commissioner McKinley,
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth,
No.
Commissioner Martin, Commissioner Martin,
My mute was on. I apologize. Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Farnsworth in dissent. And that will move us to legislative public hearing. First reading of ordinance 2020-17/CPA 2001. Miss Wendy, is this one yours? All right. Well, take us right away to amend the future land use map of the comprehensive plan by changing the land use on the properties previously voluntarily annexed to the city of Newberry. Did that buy you enough time to share your screen, Miss Wendy? Almost.
There it is.
Mr. Mayor, if I may interrupt, could I just read in the title of the ordinance?
Yep, that would be a wonderful thing to do at this point in time.
For the record, thank you. Ordinance number 2020-17 CPA 20-01, an ordinance of the city of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 as amended relating to an amendment to the future land use plan map of the city of Newberry comprehensive plan. under the expedited amendment procedures established in sections 163.3184, subsections 2 and 3 Florida statutes, and in conformance with sections 163.3161 through 163.3215 Florida statutes, providing for a change in future land use classification from Alachua County rural/agriculture, less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres, to City of Newberry agriculture, less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres, on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, which have been annexed thereto, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, sir. Now, Ms. Wendy, did that buy you enough time to share your screen?
I hope so.
All right.
Let's see. All right, so what are you seeing?
We've still got everybody in the meeting.
So you're not seeing my screen?
Not yet.
Okay. All right.
Mr.
Share
Thomas,
screen.
you, getting prepared to the pitch hit for the presentation for her, just in case?
Well,
I'll go ahead and load.
okay.
Just tell me when.
All right. Let's just you go ahead and present show the presentation. For some reason, it just isn't working on mine.
No problem. He'll share the screen. You just tell them when to advance, Ms. Wendy.
Okay, so go ahead, Brian. Thank you. Okay, this is the application CPA 20-01. It's an application by the City of Newberry to amend the future land use map for the property that was recently annexed into the City of Newberry. If we look at the next slide, we note that the slides are talking about both the CPA and the LDR, as you saw on the first cover slide. So just so you know, we have all of the maps and things that are shown on this presentation that also apply to the land development regulations, the LDR 20-03, which is the application that follows this one. So in order to not duplicate and show you the same slides and do it all over again, this presentation looks at both the CPA and the LDR. So both of the applications, the plan amendments, comprehensive plan amendment 20-01 and the LDR, both request change from the county agricultural land use to the city agricultural land use, and then the LDR changes from the county zoning to the city zoning of agriculture. Let's see, both of the applications are steps that happen after property is annexed into the city. So if we start and kind of review that annexation process, we'd go back to the previous slide. The property was annexed into the city. It goes through a process of first, second readings. It's advertised, it goes through mail outs, and once adopted and approved and part of the city, then you have to change your future land use and your zoning to match what is in the City of Newberry's comprehensive plan and zoning regulations. So in this case, we go through and we change our future land use map, and that's what is before you tonight, the first reading of the change for the comprehensive plan amendment, and then the first reading of the rezoning is also before you. So once you have that first reading of the plan change, and we change the future land use, so back up looking at the future land use map change on this heading here, then we will transmit those changes to the state, the Florida Department of Environment and Economic Opportunity. And then once we get comments back from them, then you're able to go through the second reading process. So in the meantime, we run the rezoning concurrently with the future land use change so that it saves time. It's a way of streamlining the process. And then we hold that second reading of the rezoning until the future land use amendment can be adopted as well, because your zoning is contingent upon your comprehensive plan amendment, and that your zoning implements your comprehensive plan, your future land use map. The next slide shows you the various properties that we're looking at. There are 7 areas. So it's a little bit hard to see probably for some, but it's the red squares that you see that you're able to know that there's, let's see, there's actually several parcels, but the 7 areas we have, let me see what I was going to tell you. Is if we go to the next slide, we look at some of the locations. So if you look at the future land use map, you'll see it's very hard to see on that because we have about 55 square miles of property in the city of Newberry. But it's, you can look at some of the areas, you can barely see some of the little pink changes, but they're changing from agriculture, it's in the county, and then agriculture would be the land use category for the city. If these, one good thing is that some of these applications will help fill in the enclaves. So by annexing these, since these properties are now in the city, it's a good thing. And now we need to go ahead and change the land use and zoning. So you can see the areas. If we'll go, we see the area down in the southwest, and we've got an area up in the southeast part of the city. And the southwest is down near Watermelon Pond. If we go to the individual maps, you'll see better about where these individual parcels are located. The next map shows you the one that's down in the southwest corner, and that's the one that's down near Watermelon Pond. I'm not seeing the screen. Okay, thank you. So this is about 7.5 acres, and it's in the southwest part of the city, and it's it's near the Watermelon Pond area. If we go to the next one, that's over on Southwest 30th Avenue, and that's off of 237 as you're heading west toward the county line, and that's about 20 acres. And then if we go to the next slide, we'll see that just north of that same property, off of 30th Avenue, there's another parcel that's about 36 acres. You'll see that there's that one small parcel that didn't get annexed in, but the rest is. And then we go to the next area. This is an application that's dealing with the southeast part of the city, about a little over 5.5 acres, and that's east of US 2741. The next one shows you about 4 acres on Southwest 15th Avenue. It's at the northeast corner of Southwest 170th Street and 15th. And your next one shows about, there's 7 parcels involved with this, totals about 58.5 acres. It's on the north side of Newberry Road to the east of Dudley Farm State Park. And the 7th area that we're looking at is just about 104.75 acres to the north of Northwest 32nd Avenue, west of Northwest 266th Street. And if we keep going, we took these before the Planning and Zoning Board. They voted unanimously to recommend to the City Commission approval of both the CPA 20-01 and approval of LDR 2003, contingent upon the approval of CPA 20-01. So staff's recommendation, the recommended actions that you would take would be for approval of ordinance 2020-17, which is application CPA 20-01 on first reading and authorizing transmittal to the state for expedited review. So that would be your CPA motion, so if you so choose, and then the ordinance dealing with the rezoning is the next one, the recommendation for 2020-18, application LDR 2003. But I don't know if we need to separate those out, how you want to handle that, but the recommendation is for approval of that one as well, contingent upon the approval of CPA 20-01.
Well, I have 2020-18 as a quasi judicial up next.
Yes, you're right.
Okay.
That's
so
correct.
2020
So they'll separate out.
-17 right now.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for Wendy on ordinance 2020-17? Okay, I'm not seeing No questions? Is anyone ready to make a motion? Commissioner Martin? Is that a motion to approve or a question?
Move to approve, yes, sir.
I have a motion to approve and a second from Commissioner Coleman,
Farnsworth.
from Commissioner Farnsworth. Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. I have, we are in first reading of ordinance 2020-17. I have a motion properly seconded on the floor. Are there any questions from the dais on the motion on the floor? Okay, Dallas, will you take us to our telephone number? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the meeting. If you're just tuning in, we are on item 10 of our agenda, which is a legislative public hearing. It's first reading of ordinance 2020-17. We have a motion that has been properly seconded on the floor for approval of ordinance 2020-17. You should have a telephone number on your screen now if you'd like to make a comment or you have a question about this motion. All you need to do is call that number. We'll get you into the meeting. Once you're in the meeting, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little hand symbol. You need to click on that hand symbol. That'll let us know that you have a comment or a question, and we'll get you in the queue. By my clock, that's been about 40 seconds. Dallas, do we have anyone in with their hand raised?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Seeing no public comment on ordinance 2020-17, we'll do a roll call vote, starting with Commissioner Coleman. Did we lose you, Commissioner Coleman? Dallas, did you mute Commissioner Coleman? I can't unmute him. Okay, we're going to move to Commissioner McKinley.
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye as well.
Commissioner Norfleet.
Aye.
And now we have Commissioner Coleman back.
Aye.
Both passed unanimously. Welcome back. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. That will take us to our next quasi judicial public hearing. Dallas, has anyone new entered the meeting? No? Okay, so since no one new has entered the meeting, I'm going to just begin by asking Rich or Scott, if you would please read the ordinance in, and then we will handle swearing in and ex parte communications.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 2020-18, LDR 20-03, an ordinance of the city of Newberry, Florida, relating to the amendment of the official zoning atlas for the rezoning of less than 5% of the total land area of the city pursuant to an application of the city of Newberry, amending the official zoning atlas of the city of Newberry land development regulations, providing for rezoning from Alachua County Agriculture A zoning district to City of Newberry Agricultural A zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, which have been annexed thereto, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, sir. Okay, let's go ahead and handle ex parte for ordinance 2020-18. Commissioner Coleman, do you have anything to report?
None.
Thank you. Commissioner McKinley?
No, sir.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
None.
Commissioner Martin?
No, sir.
Commissioner Norfleet?
None.
Thank you, gentlemen. Again, I'm a non-voting mayor, but I don't have any ex parte communication as well. Ms. Judy, would you please prepare to swear everybody in? Who is leading this one? Is it going to be you, Wendy?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll start with you as a guinea pig. If anyone else is here to speak to ordinance 2020-18, please click that little hand signal so that we know that you need to be sworn in as well. And Ms. Judy, please swear in Ms. Wendy.
Please state your name.
Wendy Kinzer Maxwell.
Do you hereby swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You have been duly sworn.
Thank you. Dallas, do we have anybody else with their hand raised to be sworn in?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So we've done ex parte, we've sworn in, and Rich has read the ordinance into the record. That will take us to staff overview. And Wendy, do you have anything to share with us, or is Brian going to do that?
That will be me. That's right. It's not working. So it'll be Brian sharing that again.
And it's basically the same maps that we were just
Yes,
looking
it
at.
is.
All right, go ahead and throw those back onto the screen for us, Brian, if you can. Probably give us the overview from your brain while he's working on that, Miss Wendy.
All right, this is an application LDR 20-03. It's a request to change the zoning from county agriculture to city agriculture. And the reason being, these properties were recently annexed into the city of Newberry. And now that they have been annexed, the next step is to change your future land use and then your zoning. And so we just went over the land use. And once the land use is approved, the zoning is needed to comply with the city of Newberry's regulations so that it can implement the future land use map. You can see this is the process we discussed earlier about annexation into the city and then the future land use map change and the rezoning afterwards. We do run the rezonings concurrent with the future land use map applications, and once on second reading of the future land use map, when that is approved, when those changes are approved, then the zoning can be heard and that can be approved on second reading as well if you so desire. So the next slide shows you the overall area of the properties that were annexed into the city. There's 7 areas. We went over those locations down in the southwest area near Watermelon Pond, and then scattered throughout. If we go to the next slides, we can see a closer look. Well, first we have the land use, but we'll skip that one and go to the next slide. And so these are all properties that are currently have the Alachua County agriculture designation for their zoning category. And when we bring in properties that are annexed into the city, the future land use category and the zoning category that are placed on the property are those that match our categories most closely. And since we have our agriculture categories as well, and they very closely align with the counties. So this would be a request to go to the city agriculture designation. Again, 7.5 acres down near Watermelon Pond. The next slide shows you the next area, which is on the north side of Southwest 30th Avenue. The next slide is another property that's further north of that property you just looked at, north of Southwest 30th Avenue. This is about 36 acres. The next slide shows you the property on the further that's to the east of US 2741. It's about a little over 5.5 acres. And the next slide will show you the property that's on Southwest 15th Avenue, right there on the corner of Southwest 170th Street and 15th. That's about 4 acres. And the next slide gives you the properties that are about 7 parcels together, about 58.5 acres, just to the east of Dudley Farms Historic State Park on the north side of West Newberry Road. And your next slide gives you the property that's by Northwest 32nd Avenue to the north, 104 acres, further to the west of Northwest 266th Street. And the next slide provides the Planning and Zoning Board's recommendation, and that was for approval of LDR 20-03, contingent upon approval of CPA 20-01. And staff's recommendation is for approval of LDR 20-03 on first reading, contingent upon approval of CPA 20-01. And that concludes staff's report.
Good, thank you, Ms. Wendy. And just for the record, we don't have an applicant here, so we merged staff overview and the staff report recommendation together. I have not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim a third-party intervener status. So that's going to move us to public comment in this quasi-judicial hearing. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are in our third and final quasi-judicial public hearing of the night. This is first reading of ordinance 2020-18. You should have at this point a phone number on your screen. If you'd like to call in and make a public comment, you have 3 minutes to do so. We are discussing changing the zoning from Alachua County agricultural to City of Newberry agricultural for the parcels that have been posted publicly in the agenda item. If you have a public comment for that, all you need to do is call the number on your screen. We'll get you into the meeting. Once you're in the meeting, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little hand symbol. Simply click that hand symbol. That'll let us know that you have a question or a comment to make, and we'll get you queued up to make that comment. By my clock, that's been about 35 seconds. So give us a few more seconds here just to make sure. All right, Dallas, go ahead and bring us back to the commission. Do we have anyone with their hand raised? No? All right, seeing no public comment and not having an applicant in the meeting for cross-examination, not having any third-party interveners. Miss Wendy, did you want to cross-examine yourself? Awesome. All right, commission, do you have any questions for Wendy on changing the zoning? Seeing no questions, we'll move to final arguments. Ms. Wendy, you have a final argument to make. You do not have to if you don't want to.
No, sir, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Attorney, would you please advise the decision-making body as to the applicable law?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're governed by the substantial and competent evidence standard as presented by Ms. Kinzer Maxwell's staff report.
Okay, thank you, sir. At this point, we'll enter into deliberations. If no commissioner has any deliberations to make, we'll entertain a motion at this time.
Move to approve as written.
I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Coleman.
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner McKinley. I have a motion to approve ordinance 2020-18 on first reading. It's been properly seconded. Are there any questions or comments from the dais on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, Dallas, if you would put our phone number back up there for us. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of quasi-judicial public hearing on first reading on ordinance 2020-18. We have a motion that's been properly seconded on the floor to approve this ordinance on first reading. If you have a question or a comment on the motion on the floor, you have a phone number on your screen at this time. All you need to do is call that phone number. We'll get you into the meeting. Once you're in the meeting, at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a little hand symbol. All you need to do is click that hand symbol. That will let us know that you have a comment or you have some questions that you'd like to ask. We'll get you queued up and into the meeting to ask those questions. Again, we are on the first reading of ordinance 2020-18, which is changing the zoning on numerous parcels from Alachua County agriculture to City of Newberry agriculture. By my clock, that's been 45 seconds. So Dallas, will you please bring us back to the commission? Do we have anybody with their hand raised from the public? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman.
Aye.
Commissioner McKinley.
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin. That was an aye. Commissioner Norfleet. Motion passes unanimously, and that's going to take us to our agenda items. Our first agenda item tonight is the advanced metering infrastructure bid recommendation. Mr. New, is that you?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's me. Update on progress. As you know, this has been a project that was authorized possibly 4 years ago by the City Commission, and we have been methodically working through the process. We're one step closer to deploying AMI in Newberry. Well, potentially one step closer. In March, the city issued a RFP document. We were soliciting proposals from 4 pre-qualified firms. The RFP document was prepared as a combination or a team effort between city staff, the Florida Municipal Power Agency, and Quanta, an engineering consulting firm that has expertise in AMI. By the way, a team member from Quanta, Mr. Bob Dumas, he's their project manager, is on the line and can answer any technical questions that the commission may have about this agenda item. So we put the RFP out for bid. We had 4 pre-qualified bidders. We would be happy to install any 4 of those systems. One of the pre-qualified bidders elected not to submit a proposal, citing other obligations. The 3 proposals that came in May were evaluated by Quanta. for compliance with the RFP document, not necessarily quality of the proposal, but just does it comply with the RFP document. And Quanta determined that 2 of the 3 proposals do not comply. They have significant non-compliance issues. And so that left 1 proposal that was compliant with our bid document. So we developed a recommendation that since this is a bidder that was pre-qualified and we think we'd be happy with their system and they were compliant, we've developed a 2-part recommendation. The recommendation is to accept the recommendation from the AMI RFP Evaluation Committee, and authorize the city manager to negotiate an agreement with Census and provide an AMI system consistent with the city's AMI RFP and Census's proposal. The second part of the recommended action is to authorize the city manager to rebid or reissue the RFP for our AMI services in the event that we are unable to negotiate successfully contract terms with Census. So 2-part recommendation. I'd also point out, or just for the record, that when the proposals came in, we had a 3-person evaluation committee that was charged with developing scores for the RFP. That committee met on Thursday, the 11th, to discuss Quanta's written recommendation related to compliance. And that committee unanimously voted to forward a recommendation to the city commission, which is the motion that I just recommended to the commission, that we accept Census's bid and negotiate a contract with them. And in the event that that fails, reissue the RFP. The initial evaluation of the proposals submitted by Census demonstrates to us that our project is going to be on target with our anticipated budget all along. I think at the last reporting, Quanta indicated that they estimated the project would come in the 1.2, maybe $1.5 million range. We think we are going to be at 1.2 or lower once we negotiate a final contract. And I would remind the commission that this project has been budgeted. Currently in this fiscal year. If we don't complete it this fiscal year, we will carry it forward to next. The city attorney's office has been engaged in this recommendation and the RFP document distribution and evaluation process. So I think they're fully on board with this recommendation. If we're successful in negotiating our project, I think next step will be deployment. Well, we'll ratify the contract, bring that back to the commission, and then deployment would follow. We think deployment is no more, it's probably a 4 to 6 month project, and we could see deployment beginning to roll out sometime in the fall. I'm available for questions if you have any. Mr. Dumas from Quanta, again, is online. I'm going to ask him to just briefly, very briefly overview their findings. Bob, are you online?
I am, in fact, online, Mike. Thanks very much for inviting me here. You did a mighty thorough job of recapping the situation. Basically, we had 4 bidders that we were aiming towards. Those are basically the 4 leaders in the industry. One decided to no bid. They were too busy with lots and lots of other proposals in progress. The other 3 came in on time as expected, but Mike had asked that Quanta take a 10,000 foot view, if you will, of are these bids compliant, and 2 of them were clearly not. And the third one from Census is very compliant. It's got some issues. Any bid will, that'll have to be resolved during negotiation if possible. But they're clearly compliant. And I'd be more than glad to answer any questions. I'm assuming y'all received the report that we sent in to Dallas and Mike New.
Yes, and let's go ahead and open it up to the dais for questions for either Mr. New or Mr. Dumas. Commissioner Coleman.
Mayor, did manager say we came in under budget? I didn't get that part. Did we? I heard the 1.2, but is that under?
Mr. New, could you, I know these are open negotiations, but what did we budget and where do you think we were going to end up?
Mr. Mayor, we have been reporting to the commission that we believe that this project is going to be a $1.2 to $1.5 million value. As a matter of fact, that was one of the deliverables that Quanta provided to us. Our preliminary review of the proposal from Census is that it would be in the $1.1 to $1.2 million range once all has been decided. Some of the reasons why we don't know exactly yet is we don't know exactly how many meters they will be installing. We know exactly how many we have today, but when we write the contract, it'll be open-ended to make sure that every electric meter is replaced, and we'll add them all up and pay whatever the unit price is for electric meters. So there's still a few items to be determined as we finalize our price, but we are currently expecting the project will come in on the lower end of the scale that we budgeted for.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
So, Mike, would it, if we rebid it, are we looking at it, are we going to have something that's going to be as, if they rebid it, it'd come in lower, or, and maybe Mr. Bob could answer that, that are we just kicking the can down the road? If this census or whatever their name is, came in and they're there, why delay this anymore? You know what I'm saying?
I think that Bob is probably better equipped to reply as to whether we could tighten up our specification and see cost improve. I think that we could certainly issue a new RFP document to get our bidders to be fully compliant, although you would think you wouldn't have to. The bid documents were clear, but I'm uncertain as to whether we think that would improve our pricing. I think my gut reaction is it wouldn't improve our pricing, but I think Bob is better equipped to answer that.
Well, I tend to agree with you, Mike. The only things that would change on going out for a rebid, one, I would hope that Aclara would bid this time. So we had 4 qualified bidders. Aclara is actually an excellent system supplier. Newberry is very small, as you certainly will know, and they just had too many fish to fry at the time and simply didn't have the resources to respond. But they almost certainly would this time, because I understand the workload has eased. I think Census, if you look at the price spread that is out there, they're actually on the low end right now. They are a little high on the monthly service fee, which Mike and I have discussed. I think we can get that down. But I think they've put their best foot forward to come up with the best bid they can possibly come up with. Now, that's not to say that there won't be something during contract negotiations, some little nit where they say, oh, no, we can't accept that particular term or condition, some sort of just complete showstopper. I don't have an example. It's just I've been there before. So it's conceivable that we get to a point where we say, okay, we simply cannot succeed with getting a contract in place with Census. At that point, you really have only a couple of options. One is to rebid it and hope that Aclara would rejoin the bidding process, or frankly stop. And I don't think that's a particularly attractive idea after this many years of flogging this beast.
That's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Other questions from the commission? Commissioner Farnsworth?
I was just curious, the company that won the bid, have they been vetted very well, and do they have other projects that we could look at? They
are the world's leader in water AMI. They are probably second or third in electric AMI. They are a very large, successful company and worldwide. And so they've got projects from the size of Newberry up to the size of all of Alberta, Canada. They're implementing, they just are close to signing a contract with PREPA, the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority, to do all the water meters in Puerto Rico, 1.5 million. So they are a very, very well-known, very capable company. And in fact, the water SCADA system that Newberry has got is a census SCADA system.
Okay.
Commissioner Martin, did you have some questions?
I just wanted to say that I don't have any problem moving forward with census. Everybody had a fair shake and opportunity to present before. I would know the record for the minutes. I don't recall actually receiving the breakdown of why they were not compliant, as Bob had alluded to, thinking that we had. But I don't know that the material within would really change my mind at this point. I'm always a little leery of going back to rebid, because now you've got everybody's number and you can try to put your thumb on the scale, so to speak. And I don't really like that approach. I'd only like to go there as a last resort in the event that we're not able to come to favorable terms with census. So I'm in favor of just moving forward, and I'm happy to make a motion accordingly at the appropriate time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments from the commissioners? Okay, Mike, you had a two-part motion recommendation. Will you repeat that unless you have it on a document that you can put up on the screen for us?
Mr. Mayor, I didn't prepare a presentation. I don't know how my camera works on this. Tell me if
right the first time.
I can get it up.
Just read it off for us, Mike.
I will. I'll do it. All right. Recommended action is Part A: accept the recommendation from Automated Metering Infrastructure Request for Proposals Evaluation Committee, and authorize the city manager to negotiate an agreement with Census to provide an AMI system consistent with the city's AMI RFP and Census's proposal. And Part 2, in the event the city manager is unable to authorize to negotiate a contract term with Census, authorize the city manager to terminate negotiations and reissue the RFP for AMI services.
Okay. So thank you, Dallas, for getting that on the screen for us. The motion that is recommended is in front of you on the screen. If there are no further questions, does anybody want to accept the recommended motion or alter the recommended motion in any way and put that motion on the floor?
I make a motion accordingly.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Martin to accept the recommended motion. I have a second from Commissioner Coleman to accept the recommended motion. Are there any questions from the dais on the motion on the floor?
No.
Okay, Dallas, if you would put our phone number up. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on item 12 of our published agendas, the presentation on the advanced metering infrastructure bid recommendation. We have a two-part motion on the floor to accept staff's recommendation, which is in the backup material that was published. If you'd like to make a comment or you have a question on AMI, all you need to do is call that number on your screen. Once we get you, excuse me, once we get you into the meeting, you'll see a little hand symbol at the bottom of your screen. Simply click that hand symbol. That will let us know that you have a question or comment that you would like to make. Again, the motion on the floor is a two-part motion. Is a two-part motion that is in the backup material, and that's about 40 seconds. On house, do we have anybody with their hand raised?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we're going to move to a roll call vote. We're going to start with Commissioner Coleman.
Aye.
Commissioner McKinley.
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye as well.
Commissioner Northfleet.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And that takes us to the Florida League of Cities voting delegate.
Mr. Mayor, one interject.
Commissioner
Sorry. Mike or Bob, can you refresh everybody on the kind of timeline where you are looking at with AMI? What are the first sorts of things that we can expect maybe for the rest of the year?
Mike or
For
Bob?
the rest of this calendar year.
Mike, I can certainly do that if you'd like.
Please do.
Next steps would be for us to formulate an approach to negotiating this contract. And I would plan to probably set a meeting either tomorrow or the next day with Mike to have such a conversation. I have an idea of how to proceed, but once we get that in place, I would say probably a month to do so, depending on whether or not we run into those nits that I was referring to a moment ago. And then from there forward, once a contract is in place, you know, we have a kickoff meeting, a planning meeting to figure out how to skin this cat. In this particular project, there is a demo board that's called for up front, and that demo board has got multiple reasons. Some of those reasons being to be able to demonstrate the system to the commission and your public in your town hall. It would be a board with each of the types of meters that would come with the system. And then the secondary purpose of that board would be to actually test the system before you begin deploying it in the field. One of the key reasons to do that is you must be able to bill. You know, all of AMI aside, when you get right down to brass tacks, if you can't generate a bill, you have failed miserably. So one of the first things to do is to prove out that the system that you've purchased is going to integrate into your ADG billing system and be able to generate a bill. And then once you've got all those proof points in place, then the installation contractor that Census has hired, they've hired a company called UPA out of California. I know them well, a very capable organization. They'll work with Quanta and the city, with Jamie in particular, to come up with a work plan to deploy the system in a 4 to 6 month period like Mike was talking about. And so that's not all the details of a rollout plan, if you will, but those are the highlights.
Well, I just want to, I guess, reiterate the whole idea here is getting buy-in from the public, and anything that we can help as a commission to assist in the onboarding and getting the public aware of what's going on and encouraging their involvement. Please let us know, particularly a timeline, so their expectations are there. I think that also helps us with some accountability, both internally and externally. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely exciting time to be able to get this underway. And I just don't want us to stub our toe, of course, in any of that. But we always kind of fashion ourselves of keeping the public engaged as much as possible. So that's very high on my priority list, of course.
Well, and it's an integral part of our project plan. And if you look at this specification that went out, you'd see customer engagement mentioned and discussed in detail at least 24 times. So we've got
Perfect.
a plan. We've got a plan for that, and we're not going to drop that ball, because I have been in this business for 25 years, done projects worldwide. The number one thing that you can do to fail is to get the customer to be against you.
Sure. Thank you.
Well, Mr. New, why don't we, as soon as it's clear whether or not we're going to be able to work out these negotiations, as soon as we have that question answered, why don't we schedule a presentation to the commission about what that public rollout is, just so that the commission knows. I don't see any reason to do that until we know for sure we're moving forward. If we're going out to rebid, that certainly sets us back a little bit. But once we have that question relatively firmly in hand, you know, let's have this conversation about what that public engagement is going to look like, so that we can help with that communication. Any other questions or comments on AMI? I know the commission has talked about it so much now that it's getting kind of old hand for us. But if you're watching at home, you may be wondering what advanced metering infrastructure is and why you've listened to it for the last 20 minutes. Seeing no further questions or comments, we're going to move on to the Florida League of Cities voting delegate commission. I forwarded you an email from Amy earlier today. The League of Cities is planning for their annual conference There is an option to be there live, but there's also a lot of it that's going to be virtual. You can be the voting delegate and be there in a virtual capacity. Commissioner Martin has been our delegate in the past, and he has said that he is available and willing to serve in that capacity again. Is there anybody else who has never had a chance to do it and really would like the opportunity to do that? Or are we happy with appointing Commissioner Martin as our delegate? Commissioner Farnsworth.
I think Commissioner Martin is an excellent choice for this position.
Rousing support. Commissioner Coleman.
Couldn't think of anybody else that I would want to send to Orlando or wherever to represent the city of Newberry.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. That's two voices. Hey, the rest of you give me a head nod if you're good with appointing Commissioner Martin. Look at that. Unanimous support, Commissioner Martin. You are now our voting delegate in the Florida League of Cities. Go down there and vote up a storm for us. All right. Or you can do it virtually. You don't have to actually go.
Right. Judy, are you still planning on going to that?
Yes, I would like to.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Coleman.
Are they, if they're going to have emo or any of the good stuff down there, I do want to go.
Well,
I just don't want to be the voting guy.
Right. Remember, guys, the voting delegate just is the one person who is acknowledged to speak for the city of Newberry down there. And we'll be getting with the commission as soon as they finalize their details. Anybody who wants to go and participate, the commission is certainly welcome and encouraged to go and participate in any live events that they have. The conference, I want to say, is at least 3 or 4 days long. There's only one day where they do the voting business. So you can go down there and be present for that day and vote live, or you can just be present virtually that day. Amy will get you the details on that, Commissioner Martin. But any commissioner who wants to go down and participate, it's really a wonderful way to make to network, make connections, meet people, see what other cities are doing. So I'd encourage you to take advantage of that, especially if this may be your only shot to do so. So just let the city manager, myself, Amy know that you're interested in that. We'll make sure we make the preparations for you. Okay. Anything else on Florida League of Cities? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to comments. City manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just, I don't think it's a secret in the community that Westfest does not make the June cut. It has been officially postponed into the fall. We think that we haven't finalized an exact date. We're working on that with our headline artist, Sister Hazel. Hopefully within the next 2 weeks, we'll have a date nailed down for the fall, and we'll announce that to our public, and it'll be a firm one. It'll be a rain or shine. We're going to make it happen in the fall. We're going to, there's 5 Mondays in June. So we won't be 2 weeks to our next meeting. It'll actually be 3 Mondays until our next meeting. So that is July the 13th. And then on the following Tuesday, we'll have our next budget workshop. It'll be dealing with governmental funds. The commission's expecting to hear some information and see some recommendations for what we might propose to do with roads, give the commission some alternatives in that, some facilities, and potentially future plans for police department, things of that nature. So those are things that we are working on to wrap up this year's budget. It's going to get pretty hectic between now and September when the commission will be making its final decision. We appreciate you guys offering any feedback that you can give us along the way so that we get a budget in front of you in September that is exactly what you'd like to see happen in Newberry as our work plan next year. That concludes my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Attorney.
No comment, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk.
Yes, I just want to remind our citizens that we will have the municipal election ballot on the August 18th primary election at both precincts 4 and 6. And our citizens who requested an absentee ballot with us prior to the cancellation or the rescheduling of our April election should have received a card like this from the Luttrell County Supervisor of Elections, confirming that they did receive that request. There is information on the back, emails and phone number for contact. And if you do not receive a card if you do not receive a confirmation from the county elections office, please let me know. You can contact me by phone or email me. My information is on the website. And that is all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Commissioner Coleman.
I have none.
Commissioner McKinley.
I do not.
Commissioner Farnsworth.
No comment.
Commissioner Martin.
I just want to thank Kathy and Christina and the Watermelon team for putting together what looked like a great event on Saturday. I also have a save the date reminder out on social media for a candidate forum for all the CD3 candidates and the Republican Party coming out on July 18th. And the last one is a reiteration of something that's getting posted late on social media today. One of the folks that was killed yesterday was a mom of many children here in our local schools, and they are looking for food donations to be dropped off at Newberry Elementary School if you are interested in helping ease some of the pain that's been brought on by this incident for that family.
And on that note, I've actually just got notice that there may be some confusion about the food collection and who is authorized to take that. So for the food collection through the Newberry Elementary School, I would encourage everybody just to hang on. I'm sure that within the next hour or so, we'll either announce that is not happening or that it is confirmed and we know who will be receiving that food. Commissioner Norfleet, was that the conclusion of your comments, Commissioner Martin? Commissioner Norfleet?
I have none.
All I have tonight is to add my thanks and admiration to Commissioner Martins for everybody who worked so hard to put on the Newberry Watermelon Festival. I know it's hard to remember, but this year is our 125th birthday. And it was the 75th anniversary of the Newberry Watermelon Festival. And I think they did a tremendous job making it a special day for everyone. I also want to thank TV20. I thought that they did a really fair report on it. And they talked to a lot of the folks that came who said that they really felt that the festival went above and beyond in spreading people out and making sure that everyone had the option to socially distance if they needed to. And I do appreciate that. And that concludes my comments. Dallas, will you please put our phone number up? Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our regularly scheduled commission meeting. If you're dialing in, we will be having a Board of Adjustment meeting immediately to follow this one. But we are technically right now still in our regularly scheduled commission meeting. We've come to the end of the night where you have an opportunity for citizen comments. Comments at the end of the meeting can be up to 5 minutes long. If you'd like to call in and make a comment, you just need to dial the number that's on your screen right now. Once you are let into the meeting, once we get you in, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little hand symbol. Simply click that hand symbol. It'll let us know that you have a comment that you would like to make. If you have questions, we'll do our best to answer them, but sometimes people ask questions we can't answer on the fly. And we do have a little bit of a time delay between our live feed and YouTube. So we're going to leave this number up for a few seconds to give you plenty of time to dial it, call in, let us know that you have a comment that you would like to make. By my clock, that's been about 50 seconds. Dallas, do we have anybody with their hand raised wishing to make a comment at the end of the night?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I'll remind the commission not to go anywhere. We're going to convene our Board of Adjustment meeting immediately at the close of this commission meeting, which is now adjourned, and the BOA is now called to order. Commissioner Coleman has asked me to chair this meeting since I'm here with the gavel. So first thing I'd like to do is ask for an approval of the agenda as it was published. I have a motion to approve the agenda from Commissioner Martin and a second from Commissioner Coleman. Okay, any comments or question on the motion on the floor, which is to approve the agenda for the Board of Adjustments? Seeing none from the dais, Dallas, if you would, please put our, did I lose? Oh, there he is. Please put our phone number up. Ladies and gentlemen, we are convening our Board of Adjustment meeting immediately following the City Commission meeting. We still have that 30-second delay. So if you would like to make a comment or you have a question about the agenda for the Board of Adjustment meeting, now is the time to do so. We haven't started that meeting. So if you think something should be on the agenda and isn't, or you think something on the agenda is incorrect, please call the number on your screen. Once we get you into the meeting, you'll see a little hand symbol at the bottom of your screen. All you need to do is click that hand symbol. That'll let us know that you have a comment or a question. Again, the motion on the floor is simply to approve the agenda. So your comment or question would have to be about that motion. And by my clock, that has been about 35, 40 seconds. So please bring us back. Dallas, do we have anybody with their hand raised?
No, sir.
Okay. Hearing none, I will ask for a roll call vote on the motion to approve the agenda. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinley?
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Martin?
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to the approval of the June 8, 2020 Board of Adjustment meeting minutes. You all have that in your backup material. Are there any questions or comments, or someone ready to make a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner McKinley.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Martin. Any questions on the motion on the floor? Which is to approve the Board of Adjustment meeting minutes from June 8th, 2020. Hearing none. Dallas, if you put our telephone number back on the screen one more time, please. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in our Board of Adjustment meetings. The item before us right now is approval of the June 8th meeting minutes. If you have any questions or comments about those meeting minutes, there's a phone number on your screen. All you need to do is dial that phone number. That will get you into the meeting. Once you're in the meeting, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little hand symbol. It's got a red circle around it. All you need to do is dial that number, click that button. That'll let us know that you have a question or a comment that you'd like to make about the Board of Adjustment meeting minutes from June 8th. We'll get you in the queue to make that question or comment. By my clock, that's been about 40 seconds. So Dallas, if you'll bring us back to the dais. Do we have any comments on the hand raise? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman? Commissioner, that's aye. McKinley?
Aye.
Okay, Commissioner McKinley?
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Martin?
Aye also.
Commissioner Norfleet?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And that takes us to new business, which is a quasi-judicial public hearing for resolution 2020-28. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when the commission sits at quasi-judicial, that means that they are sitting as a judicial body, not as a legislative body. And that adds another layer of procedures that we must follow. To begin by simply asking our attorney to read this resolution into the record for us. And at that, after he's done reading that into the record, we'll explain the rules and the procedures that we will follow during this quasi-judicial. So Rich or Scott, you can.
Resolution 2020-28 SDP 20-05. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, serving as the Board of Adjustment of the City of Newberry, Florida, approving an application for site and development plan approval of 7,900 square feet gross floor area of new construction, Alpha Omega training and compliance with associated site development, including parking and utilities pursuant to section 14.12 of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, to be located on property zoned CI, commercial intensive, in the Newberry Commercial Park on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, repealing resolutions in conflict and providing effective date.
Thank you, sir. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, when we're in quasi-judicial, after we've read the ordinance or the resolution into the record, I'm going to explain the rules concerning testimony, which is that primarily the substantial and competent evidence must be met when the board makes a decision. And it will say the following, and I quote, "All public testimony will be taken under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into the evidence. The giving of opinion testimony is limited to experts, and closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of record. Before I move on, I'm going to go ahead and ask the clerk, if you would please swear anybody in. If you're in the meeting and you're here to speak to the quasi judicial public hearing on resolution 2020-28, all you need to do is click that little hand symbol at the bottom of your screen. I'm assuming that either Mr. New, who I can hear typing in the background, or lead us through this conversation. So Wendy, if that's the case, would you please raise your hand? We'll use you as the guinea pig again. And Madam Clerk, whenever you're ready to swear her in, proceed.
Wendy Kinzer Maxwell, do you hereby swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You have been duly sworn.
Thank you.
Dallas, we have anybody else with their hand raised?
I believe Mr. Highlander.
Okay. Madam Clerk, could you swear in Mr. Highlander? Are you raising your hand because you wish to give testimony during this quasi judicial?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, hang on one second. We'll get you sworn in. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Highlander, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You have been duly sworn.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, clerk. Do we have anyone else with their hand raised?
Yes, sir.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to ask for ex parte communications on behalf of the commission for resolution 2020-28. Commissioner Coleman?
None, Mayor.
Commissioner McKinley?
No, sir.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
I have none.
Commissioner Martin?
No, sir.
Commissioner Norfleet?
None.
Okay, I'm now going to explain the procedure that we're going to follow tonight. We're going to start with a staff overview. Then the applicant will have the opportunity to make a presentation with no time limit. Then the staff will have the opportunity to make a presentation, and they're also going to give their recommendation. There's also no time limit. I've not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim a third-party intervener status, so that's going to move us to public comment. Anybody wishing to comment on this motion will have 3 minutes to do so. After public comment, the applicant can cross-examine anything that they heard from staff or that they heard from the public, and then staff will have the same opportunity to cross-examine. Then we'll move to the members of the decision-making body who, through the chair, may ask questions of the staff, the applicant, or any of the participants. Final arguments will then be made by the applicant and the staff, and then the city attorney will advise the decision-making body as to the applicable law. At that point, the commission will enter into deliberations, and after deliberations, they will make a motion to approve with conditions, continue, or deny the application. That's the presentation that will follow tonight. We'll begin with staff's overview. Miss Wendy, do we have a PowerPoint? Look at that, and it works.
I have a secret source.
All right.
The first slide shows you that we are doing an application. This is for site and development plan approval for 7,900 square feet of gross floor area for new construction. This is for the new location of AOTC. The applicant is DRMP for ER 1417 properties. The next slide shows you well, it doesn't. It gives us our recommendation. Staff's recommendation is for approval. And if we go on to the next slide, we'll talk about the overview, which is the Alpha Omega Training and Compliance, a local operations center is what is being built at this location. They've outgrown their existing site that's there in the commercial park, and they're moving to this site, which is a combination of lots 14 and 17. They have 7,900 square feet of gross floor area of new construction with office and general warehouse space. It's about 2 acres on the 2 lots, 14 and 17. And the next slide gives you a location showing you there in the Newberry Commercial Park. And 14 and 17, you can see the lots that they're doing. So the next slide mentions that we have the applicant's presentation, and Josh Highlander is here representing the applicant to make that presentation. And going on to the next slide.
Thank you, Wendy. I really don't have much to add. The narrative is very well written, and I don't want to take too much of the board's time. If I can answer any questions on behalf of the client, I represent them as a consultant for the design and the construction. So I can certainly answer any questions the board may have.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let's get back to the staff and finish up your presentation and give us a recommendation.
Okay, the next slide shows you the site plan. And if you have any questions specifically about that, Mr. Highlander can answer them. It does provide for the required parking spaces. It has and meets or exceeds the requirements of the land development code. So the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Board on the next slide shows you that they recommended unanimously to recommend to the Board of Adjustment approval of application resolution 2020-28 for application SDP 2005 as presented for approval by staff, and staff's recommendation is for approval.
Okay, does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, I have no third-party interveners for tonight. So Dallas, would you please put our phone number back up? Ladies and gentlemen, we are in our Board of Adjustment meeting. We have started the quasi-judicial public hearing for resolution 2020-28. And we have come to the part where the public has the opportunity to comment. You have a 3-minute comment. On your screen right now, you'll see a telephone number. If you have a comment to make about resolution 2020-28, all you need to do is call that phone number. Once we are able to get you into the meeting, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little hand symbol. All you need to do is click that hand symbol, and that'll let us know that you have a question or you have a comment. Again, if you have questions, we may or we may not be able to answer them here in the moment, but we will do the best that we can. And I believe that that has taken about 35 seconds of the time delay that we have. So do we have any hands raised, Dallas?
No, sir.
Okay, then we were going to move straight on to the applicant cross-examination. Mr. Highlander, if you heard anything that Wendy said that you'd like to question or clarify, now would be the appropriate time to do so.
Oh, no, sir, I do not.
Thank you. Wendy, do you have anything else that you need to clarify for us?
No, sir. No, thank you.
Okay. Commission, do you have any questions or comments for either Wendy or Mr. Highlander? Commissioner Martin.
Wendy, there's quite a few comments, but it looks like they've all been addressed. You're satisfied that the applicant has got those all taken care of at this point?
Yes, all of the development review staff have reviewed it, given their comments, and things have been corrected, and we are satisfied. They've worked very well with us.
Okay. All right, I'll have a comment later, but that's it at the moment.
Okay. Other questions from the commissioners? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to final arguments. Mr. Highlander, you don't have to make a final argument, but if you'd like to do so, now would be the time.
No, sir. No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Ms. Wendy, do you have a final argument you'd like to make?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Attorney, would you please advise the decision-making body?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are once again governed by the substantial and competent evidence standard, and the board should take into consideration the report from staff and from Mr. Highlander.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, we'll enter into deliberations. Commission have any questions, comments, thoughts? And at the end, we'll entertain a motion to approve, approval conditions, continue, or deny. Commissioner Martin, did you have a comment that you'd like to make?
Yes, sir. More of a comment. I'd encourage the fellow commissioners to go ahead and move to approve this. And I'd like to, Mr. Highlander, please, convey our appreciation to the business. We recognize that they have opportunities to go elsewhere. And I'm glad that they have chosen to try to stay here and stay with us in the city of Newberry. And just please pass along our appreciation in the event this is passed. And I encourage my other fellow commissioners to pass it as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other deliberations from the commission? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion at this time. Once again, you can move to approve with conditions, continue, or deny.
Move to approve resolution 2020-28.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner
Second.
Coleman, second from Commissioner Martin. Any final questions or comments on the motion on the floor from the dais? Okay, seeing none. Dallas, if you put our phone number up for the last and final time this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our BOA meeting, our Board of Adjustment meeting. The item before us is a quasi-judicial public hearing about Resolution 2020-28. We've heard from the applicant. We've heard from staff. We have a motion to approve the resolution that has been properly seconded, and that is the motion on the floor at this time. If you have any questions or comments about the motion on the floor, then there's a phone number on your screen. All you need to do is call that phone number. Once we are able to get you into the meeting, look at the bottom of your screen. You'll see a little hand symbol. It's got a red circle around it. All you need to do is click that hand symbol. That'll let us know that you have a question or comment. Again, you need to keep that question or comment about the motion on the floor, which is approval of Resolution 2020-28. We have a little bit of a time delay between our live feed and YouTube, but that time delay should have expired at this point. So we'll come back to the commission. Dallas, do we have anybody with their hand raised? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinley?
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Martin?
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet? Motion passes unanimously, and that brings us to comments at the end of our Board of Adjustment meeting. Mr. New, do you have anything else?
No, Mr. Mayor, I do not.
Madam Clerk?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Attorney?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Coleman?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner McKinley?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Martin?
No, sir. Thank you.
Commissioner Norfleet?
No.
The only comment I have is I have received clarification on the food drive, and that's been put on hold right now until we can make sure that that's what the family's wishes are, and we're making sure that we're getting it to the right family. So if you had any plans to drop off food this week, please put that on hold. I'm sure that if that effort is regurgitated, resuscitated, they'll let you know, and we'll get that back on track. But for now, please put it on hold. That's my only comment, and that brings us to public comments at the end of the Board of Adjustment meeting. I've miscalled it. There's one more time to put the phone number up. So ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of this Board of Adjustment meeting. If you have any questions or comments that you'd like to make to the commission, now you have an extended 5-minute period to do so. If you want, all you need to do is call the phone number that's on your screen. Once we get you into the meeting, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little hand symbol. If you have a question or comment you'd like to make to the commission, simply click that hand symbol. That'll let us know that you'd like to make a comment, and you have 5 minutes to talk to your commissioners. We do have a little bit of a delay between our live feed and YouTube, which should have expired at this point in time. So Dallas, if you would bring us back to the commission. Do we have anybody with their hand raised to make a comment to the commission? Seeing none, then we will be adjourned, and I wish everyone a wonderful evening. We are adjourned.